What's going on YouTube? Omar aka Tebow back with you again. Happy Tamiya Tuesday, and today we are getting back to the Lancia 037 Rally build. We left off, we had our rear assembly, our rear gearbox, arms, everything set up. We are now jumping into step 10, which is going to be the start of bag B, and we are building our front differential. So we are going to just jump right into this guy. Alright. Let's get our parts together. Should have had these parts already on the table. This is where I'm at today. I am still suffering from the flu, so it's giving me a little bit of a hard time, but it's alright. I'm just going to push right through. Alright, so let's get our front diff set up, and as always, take our little diff rings, apply a little bit of grease to them. Not too much, just a light little coating on both sides. Oh, the one thing that I will be doing on this guy, that I do on a few of my kits, is I will go ahead and put the anti-wear grease in this front diff versus just the standard grease. Just gives the car a little bit more diff action, and the way that these TA02S are set up, it makes for a very lovely, almost limited slip feel. I am severely lacking on something to apply this grease with, so you know what? We're just going to make use of what we got. I'm going to go ahead and use our little Allen key. I find these things to be pretty much disposable. Really don't care for them too much because I have a real nice set, Allen set. This is where it gets messy. There's nothing you can do about it, especially when dealing with the anti-wear grease, so be prepared to have sticky fingers when you're dealing with this. Alright. You know, honestly, what I should have done is I should have grabbed a paper towel so I don't get this grease all over the place, but it's too late for that now, and we'll just get messy with it. It's half the fun of RC, right? Everything gets messy. Let me set this down. I don't have any on the gears yet. I'm going to apply a healthy amount, which honestly isn't too much, but to coat a little blob in there. A little goes a long way with this. So it doesn't have to be neat, doesn't have to look pretty, just as long as you coat some in there, because as the gears move, they will spread out the anti-wear grease everywhere. But I just want to have a decent amount in there. And now I am going to shut my mouth and just work on this. Now that our front diff is together, we are going to go ahead and install it into our front gearbox. We need just a couple ball bearings for this. These are still the standard 1150s. And by the way, my bearings did come in, so I have those weird odd shaped ones when we get to the front. Only tricky part about this is you have to pay attention to which side goes in. So the arrow, which is the front of the gearbox over here, you want to make sure that your side that has your screws is facing on the right side of it. So just drops in right in there. Got our little cover. And then we're just going to go ahead and screw this bad boy together with four, not three, of our 3x10 screws. With step 12, we are going to get our propeller joint and our counter gear installed on this bad boy. So, this is where you need a couple of the small bearings. So we do have little 850. Just goes in the bottom there. They tell you to grease this thing, but if you're using bearings, I mean, don't. Just because it really doesn't help, and if somehow dirt or anything does get in there, it will gum up the works. So that guy is good. And then we need our propeller joint to pop. You know, before I pop that in there, let's get that E-clip on it. What am I doing? Wake up, Omar. So, E-clip. I always use my mat to seat a lot of E-clips, even the little tiny ones in suspension and things like that. And then our part is going to snap in on the back. There's a definite little snap that you'll hear. Make sure it's in there and it just kind of spins freely. And then two more of our bearings. We already have that guy in there, and then our little 850 bearing up at the top. And we're going to pop these bad boys in and get the cover on there, which, knowing me, I probably forgot to cut the cover off of the sprue, which I did, but that's easy peasy. Get that bad boy going now. Excuse me while I take care of a little bit of flashing. I can't stand flashing. This needs to be nice and clean and smooth. Very nice, very nice. Okay. We'll grab our grease and we will grease up this bad boy. Since I didn't put any grease on the main gear, just because I knew at this point, you know, I can get the grease on it at this juncture. And again, just light coating. I know sometimes it looks like I'm going crazy with it. Trust me, I'm not. Once it spins a few times, that is a nice light amount of grease that will get all over. So let's see if we can spin it. And now we have an equal coating on both sets. Same time, we want to get a little bit of grease on this piece. Again, I'll just do a nice little light coating all over it. Once it mates with the other one here, it will spread. We'll have plenty of the grease. Make sure your ball bearing lines up in there, and again, give it a little spin. Get that grease coated. So now, as you can see, after I've spun it, we have a nice little light coating of grease on all the gears. Nothing too crazy. We don't want big old globs. So now that we've done that, let's seal up our front gearbox. And then, let's see, this particular guy goes on here like so. It's held on by three 3x10 screws. Word on this gray plastic, it's a little bit harder than most of the other plastics, so make sure you are giving a little bit of pressure when you're putting the screws in. It's very easy with this plastic to end up stripping these screws when it comes to this kind of silverish plastic. But as long as you apply a little bit of force and not leave it loose, you shouldn't have any kind of issues screwing in. Get them all hand tight. And then once you have all three of them in there, go back and just make sure they're all seated properly. This one right here is giving me a little bit of an issue with going into that plastic, so I will go to the other two and tighten them up first. There we go, just until they're seated. We'll come back to this. I'll apply a lot of pressure. There we go, now it's seating in. And right to hand tight. Okay, we have now finished our front gearbox and diff. Moving on, shocks will be coming up next. Alright guys, steps 13, 14, and 15 are going to be assembling our shocks. I built a lot of these. I like to go through in one step. In previous videos, I've gone very in-depth into how to assemble good shocks. I'm going to give you the gist of it today. Use some green slime or Nolene SF3 grease for your O-rings. And then have some shock pliers handy so you don't scuff up those guys. And if you have a Tamiya shock pump, one of the best tools that you can pick up, so that you get all the air bubbles out. If you guys want a much more in-depth how to build shocks, go back and you can view either my TA02 type S build video or my comical grasshopper build video. And both of those build videos series I went in depth, but I'm trying to keep these build videos down to short lengths, just some feedback that you guys gave me. So I'm just going to blast through this and get these guys together here. Quick interlude at this point. I totally forgot in my rush to get these together. This particular kit uses 2 spacers on each of these internally. So, don't be like me. Don't forget to put in your internal shock spacers. Ironically, it's something that I had talked about with a couple friends on one of the forums that we all like to go to. So, kind of funny that I completely forgot about that. Okay guys, with that, we are done with part 3 of the video. We got our shocks assembled, we got our front gearbox put together, so now we have 2 halves of the car, as well as with the shocks, so just a little bit more to go, maybe a couple more episodes of this. Once again, thank you very much for joining me on this. If you have questions, if you have comments, leave them in there. Oh, one last word. I've been chatting with a couple friends on one of my favorite forums. So Grassens and Fuijo, I think I said that right. In terms of what we were talking about was the ride height, how the battery can show where the body is, shock adjustments, how to get this car set up. Out of the box, I'm building it the way that Tamiya states in their instruction manual. And then once the car is complete, if I'm not happy with the stance and how the battery may be protruding under the body, then I will look into maybe getting rid of some of those spacers, which I almost forgot when building the shocks, or using the longer shock ends, which I think is what Grassens had said he had done. But I'll get to that bridge later. Anyways, once again, thank you guys. Like, sub, share, and I will see you on the next one.